Well, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another Obvio Q&A and kind of walkthrough. There's a few new faces. Oh, and we've got a blue is joining us. How awesome. I was just checking out a list. I can see a list of people that are here. And we've got a few new people that are joining us that have just joined Leap, which is very exciting. Congratulations! And uh, and so this is the first time. It's great. Always awesome around this time, just after a TVE, that we get an influx of new Obvio users. And so we have a mixture of people that have just joined Leap, some people that are just playing around with Obvio, that might have done a free trial, and then we have all of our regulars or more seasoned users that have their questions and want to find out what's going on as well. And so generally what we do is we have a questions button on the dashboard. So the dashboard that you came through, there was ask a question. And that's the best way for us to manage questions on these particular calls. So if you type into that form, then that sends through to us, and then we can manage our questions. We make sure we don't lose anything in the chat. We still use the chat. Generally, we find that maybe asking related questions to what we're talking about, you could throw that in the chat. But if it's super, super important, and then go through the dashboard, put it on the ask a question button form, and that way we won't miss it at all. We'll get to it. We generally talk about Obvio related things. I mean, entirely through this whole time, but we talk about Obvio specific things about how you're running your event on Obvio, and how you want to do a particular function, things like that. Inevitably, we also will talk in general a little bit about, take some questions maybe about how you're executing your event that may not be specifically related to Obvio, but there's a great group of people, that are experienced group of people, that we can often share some common knowledge as well. And then inevitably we get to some production sort of tech questions as well. And so that's generally the flow that we try to keep it on. That we're looking at specifically the how to use Obvio to start with, and then we step through. Hello, Blue. How are you?
Hello, Grant. How are you?
Well, thank you. It's nice to see you. I had a bit of a plan, but it might be different now that you're here. I had a little.
Well, let me just start. I know you just welcomed a lot of the new Leap members who just joined us, who now are also Obvio users, and I wanted to just take a couple of moments and welcome you to these particular calls. These calls really are, while you have access to them with your Leap membership, they are really focused on Obvio. So while you may see myself here, and obviously Grant, and here we are here to answer questions primarily about Obvio, how you can use the platform, and how you can have success with your virtual events with the platform. Now, like Grant said, we oftentimes do dive into some just general tech questions. What we try to do is save those for the end of these calls and handle all of our Obvio or platform-based questions at the beginning. The other thing I wanted to just say to you is the level of question, or whether you feel like you're just getting started and it's a really simple question, or you've been using Obvio for a while now and it's a really complicated question, or maybe you're just an advanced user and you have a question about some sort of advanced automation with your CRM and how to pull something off that you saw us do at TVE or something similar to that. These Q&A calls they don't build on each other, right? Oftentimes we will answer the same question from different people call after call. because people come in at varying points in time. So we are always here to answer any questions you have about the platform. So if you're a new Leap member and you're going to take the next couple of weeks, the next month or so, maybe a little bit longer to just kind of get acclimated with the content, and you don't think you're going to touch Obvio for, another 4 to 6 weeks, don't worry about it. You're not going to miss anything by not being on these Q&A calls. You can come in at any point and ask questions for where you are at that time. Okay. In addition to that, you all have access to, not just Leap members, but all Obvio users have access to the Obvio Jumpstart um, workshop that we did, which is 8 different modules where I walk you through all of the different pieces and parts of how Obvio works. You have access to that from the dashboard that you came into this event on, and also through your Members Hub. If you're a Leap member, you can access it there as well. And if you can't find it as a Leap member, you can email us at leap@poweredbysage.com. As an Obvio member, if you can't find it, you can always email us at help@obv.io. Another thing for Leap members, we have a Facebook community, a Facebook group that is just for Obvio. And I would encourage you to post your Obvio-based questions in that particular Facebook group, because not only will other Leap members see it, but myself and Grant, a young lady by the name of Heather, who is one of our lead support team members, as well as one of our developers who moonlights as a support person. His name is James. We all are in there answering questions on the regular. You can also email support at help@obv.io. And also inside the application, when you log in, bottom left-hand corner, there's a little chat icon. And that is available between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Friday, and it is a live person that you're talking to. That is not an AI bot yet. I mean, we may add some AI stuff to it at some point in the future, but for now, that is just a real human that you're actually engaging with and interacting with back and forth. So that's a lot of different ways that you can access support for Obvio, and just know that when you are ready to dive in to this platform and really go waist deep or really go neck deep, we are here to be your little floaties, right? To help keep you above water and help keep you moving forward with the platform and get you to know everything you need to know about it. And I think the piece that I wanted to just say to all Leap members that I think is probably most important that you hear from me is you don't need to be on every single Obvio call. I would say you should definitely be on Obvio on these Obvio calls if you have a question. And listen, you can always come and just listen. For me personally, sometimes I come to these calls and I mute myself and I just listen to Grant speak because I love his funny accent, right? So it really is up to you how much time you spend on these calls. But they happen every single week. And we are here to make sure that you feel as though the platform is as easy to use as we think it is. With that, pardon me, with that kind of just baseline between what Grant said and what I said, I thought we would start with just a really, really super high level overview of what the structure of Obvio is. And then I'm going to pass it off to Grant and we can start answering questions. But inside of Obvio, when you first log in, what it's going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you for a credit card. Okay. And the reason it's doing that is really primarily because as a Leap member, you have what's called an Obvio Pro account. And your Obvio Pro account can handle unlimited events of unlimited duration. There is a cap on how many attendees you can have inside of that event, which is 500, which I think we would all be super happy with 500 attendees at our event. Can I get a heck yeah with that one? Yeah, exactly, right? So if you have more than 500 attendees, then we have a good problem to solve, and it's easily solvable because Obvio allows you to purchase additional blocks of attendees or capacity for your events. And there is a fee for it. It costs $100 to add a block of 250 attendees to a specific event. So if you have an event that is going to be like 750 people, first off, congratulations. And then second off, there is going to be something that you have to do inside the platform to allow you to have that many attendees. Beyond that, that's the only reason it's asking for a credit card. There isn't going to be a charge associated with it. Your membership is in fact free, and there's no hidden fees or anything along those lines for your Leap-based membership. For those of you who are wondering what the heck is Leap, I paid $197 a month or $19.97 for the year for my Obvio account. Why do they get it for free? Well, their investment is a little bit more than that, to the tune of around $15,000. And it's something that myself and Barry do. And it's a year-long coaching program. Please feel free to reach out about it if you have any questions. But as a result of being in that program, they do have access to this amazing platform for the year that they are with us. Okay, with that, actually, Grant, what was Grant and I haven't chatted because I'm still in Costa Rica. So just Grant, why don't let's just have everybody not pay attention to what you and I talk about for 10 seconds. What's your plan?
Yeah, let's just go to logo for a moment and some background music. Is that what happened?
Happy
All I was gonna.
Valentine's Day, everybody. What's everybody
Hey,
doing?
Barry.
Valentine's Day. And you're with us. That's so awesome. Sending you lots of love on this Valentine's Day. Let's make this the year you fall in love with yourself, your business, and your event life.
And Barry's
Nice.
probably thinking to herself, man, now he's having a conversation with Grant in front of them about what they're doing. I wish they had done this just, 15 minutes ago.
Barry,
That'd have been awesome.
Barry just does a cameo. He comes in, does a short or a little TikTok for us, and then out. It's awesome. A live TikTok recording. Um, so Blue, all I was going to do is I have a clean new user,
Cool.
and I was just gonna do like a very, very quick, this is what it is, quick overview of
Sounds
some
like you were
tabs.
going to do what I was going to say, and it's probably better for them to see it than to hear it. So I will pass it to you and be here once we go back to questions.
Okay. I'm just gonna send Blue a cool little link that I've just made. And then I'll get into this, so I'll be able to share. So what we'll do, I'm thinking of this as like you've just logged into Obvio for the very first time. And as Blue said, there's those walkthrough videos that are really in depth about all the different features. So it'll take a little time to walk through those. But I'm not trying to replace that by any means. I just wanted to give you a crash course, and this is really helpful. We say this for people that have been using the system for a long time, also that they might have just missed a couple of little things along the way. And so I'm just going to get sharing here. One of the things that we say on these calls is don't tech your own show. And it's exactly what I'm doing right now, is taking my own show. And you can tell because my speech slows down, which might make it easier for the Australian accent. I'm not sure. All right, so
That's funny.
thank you. Um, all right, here we go. Doing things a little differently here. Trying to keep it 16:9. There we go. So I literally just set this account up. And this is the first thing that you would see when you've got your account. You've logged in. You see an organization. And so what I'm going to do in this is I'm just going to speak about the functions that you can see and not necessarily go into detail about how to use those functions, but just very broadly what they do. And so that then you can go back to the calls that Blue has, and you'll go into detail about how it all works. But when we look at this page, it's intentionally kind of very plain and simple. What we have up here is our account and the billing information, and so you can see who you're logged in as. Organizations are a way of keeping events grouped together, so you can have as many events as you like in organizations, and generally it'll be 3 organizations that you can have. An organization, as we'll see here, if I click on the organization, it's now going to show me what's in here, and here's all my events. Okay, so there's no events created yet. When I look at my options up here for the organization, there's events, there's the team. So who do I want to get access to the admin of Obvio? And add-ons is where you're paying for more attendees and buying more active Zoom rooms, things like that. And the settings is where we would set things like our communication for being able to send out emails. What's the email address you want to send out from? Things like that. So what we do is we start a new event. So we're going to put an event name. The unique URL. So this is what, as you can see, if you look in the, if you looked on the dashboard that you just came in, you'd see update .obv.io. So the update was this part here. So I'm going to choose whatever I want. Something like that. Then you can choose, this is a newer feature, but you can choose which domain name you'd like at the end of that. And so this can be kind of fun. This is the address that's going out to everyone, and so you might want to choose one of those that relates to what your particular event is. The event time zone is used throughout the platform, and this is particularly helpful when you're working across multiple time zones, like I am inevitably always. So you can say that any time that appears throughout the admin is going to be in this time zone. And so you can say, let's declare this now, that the event time is in this time zone, and now we'll refer to that always. The start and end time of your event is specifically when you'd be using Zoom. So it's the window that you would want to be using Zoom through Obvio. So it's how we kind of set up our licensing and how it all works to talk to Zoom. There isn't really a limit on this. You might be running an event that goes for a month, and that's every second day for a month or something. Then you can put those times in here. You can say when it'll start, and you can put however long you need. So your dashboard that's connected to this event is available from the moment that you've set it up, regardless of this start and end time, and is available throughout your event and after your event. For as long as you have an active subscription with Obvio, you're able to use those dashboards, and your attendees can come back and see those dashboards. Let me think here for a second. So where am I? Here we go. All right, now I want to just set this. They're like, he's in the future. It's true, I am in the future.
Yes, can you tell us how Thursday is so far? We're all wondering if Thursday's going to be a good day. Is Thursday going to be a good day?
It's a good day, and actually it's great weather as well. It's really warm, so that should be fine for everyone. No matter where you are, you should get the same weather as I'm having now. The expected number of attendees is just an indicator. We're not holding you to it. It's just it just comes in our system, and it's something that we're able to track. If you put 10,000 in here, we might be like, okay, let's put out a few more virtual seats on our server. Generally, it's just, okay, I'm expecting 50 people. The default, the attendee default password is something that you probably won't need to use, and I'm not going to go into great detail now because we have much better ways of handling how people can get in. But let's just call it an advanced feature for now that you don't need to worry about. Okay, so fave icon is the little icon that sits in the top on the tabs that you can see in the browser when people save it as a bookmark. That's the little icon, so you can upload a custom one of those. And the logo is what would appear back on the event website, the organization listing. You'd see the logo for the event, and so that's an easy way to be able to see the differences there. So then I just hit create, and now here's still my organization, and I can see the event that I just created. So now we step in. So now you have an option as to what theme you'd like to use, what template you'd like to use for the dashboard. And you're seeing sort of examples of the different ones there. So when you go to choose one, you can say, give me a completely empty template, or give me one that's got a whole bunch of demo data in it, so that it's sort of easier for me to see how it's laid out, and you can play around with real data then as far as getting that going. And so I encourage you, remember that you can have as many events as you like. And so I encourage everyone, ideally what you might do is actually create a demo of each one of these themes and mess around with them a little bit, because then you'll really get a sense of what each one can do and how it lays out and how it might work for you. You can have sort of a sandbox of your own that you can play around with and say, yeah, this is the one that I want. I'm just going to choose. Actually, I'm going to choose classic because it's my first love. So this has gone ahead and created that theme and the demo data, and now we're seeing this menu on the side here for our event. So just very quickly, the settings was where we were before. So that's the settings that we created the event. We can make some changes there. Statistics tells us about who has come to the dashboard, how many attendees have you got total, and things. You can see different steps along the way and how many are live in Zoom at the time. That template, we have a way of being able to change the template, although just tread carefully with that, because there's some content panels that might not are not compatible to move across. So there's things that you might lose in the process. It's better to decide on the template that you want and then move forward just with that template. So that's in the event. The check-in this is when we start to think about what's the process that we want people to go through before they get to the dashboard. The password was something that I was talking about before as a default password. Generally now we are not needing to use the password, and as I said, I'll call that an advanced feature. Blue goes into that more in the walkthrough. So for me on this one, I'm just going to skip it. I'm going to disable it so that there's no password required. We then go to a waiver, and so I think you might have seen it on some events where you need to have all of your attendees sign a waiver, and that can be both.
They all just actually had to sign the waiver and actually we asked you a couple of questions at that step, right? So that is a step that you guys actually all saw and can be customized.
There we go. And so
it's optional.
you can,
which is pretty
totally optional, and it sounds legal. It sounds like a legal thing, and it can be, but it also can just be a step that you want people to acknowledge something before they get to your dashboard, and it just happens once. They sign it, and away they go. I'm also going to disable that. And then we have the tech check. And so this is, I think, a really cool feature that we've really had from day one. And that was to get people checked and to have a human touch before they even get to the dashboard. And so this is a way of handling how people get into the tech check that'll come up with this screen, and it'll say complete my check-in. That would take them into a Zoom meeting, which is always a shock and a surprise, I think, for people. And they really love it that they actually get to speak to someone. It's like walking up to the registration desk. So that's what that tech checking. I'm disabling that as well. All right. So then we get to the design, and now here is the dashboard editor. I'm not going to go into all of the ins and outs of this because Blue also does a great job of that, but you'll see if we were to think about the absolute bare minimum of creating an event and testing it and making it happen, what we need is a button to get into Zoom. And here in the demo data that was put on this template, we already have a button called Main Stage. And so we're going to come back to this in a moment once we've set up our area, our Zoom room, and we're going to connect it to that button and we can see how that works. Global styles, once again, very straightforward as to how the colors work and font family, things like that works across multiple pages. And we start looking at how we can customize the login page that was, again, tied to the password. Most of the time people are going to bypass this page altogether. Same as how you entered this meeting. You clicked a button in the email or the link, and it took you straight to the dashboard as a magic link that bypassed the login. You didn't need to put your email or password in. Sign up is a little bit different. We do use this particularly for free events, where you can send this link out to everyone, and they will just come and put their first name, last name, and email. That goes ahead and creates an attendee in the system and takes them straight to the dashboard. And so that's what sign up is. I've got my password, once again, more related to password, change password. Lots of events, as I keep saying, lots of events we run now with no need for anyone to mess around with passwords. The offline page is something that you can do once your event's done. You can turn off your event page and you can customize this. You can make your dashboard offline, so now people will come and see this page, and it could just be information that the event has now finished and the next one is XYZ, or you can even divert or redirect your dashboard link to go to somewhere else, like your marketing site or something that's talking about your next event. That's what that's about. Form reports is when we specifically, this is the ability to have people fill out forms throughout your event and then have them generate a report of their own form responses. And so you could think that they might have stepped through a series of forms and they entered some data in there, and then right at the end of the event you're saying, hey, can I get all that data back and have that as one export as a PDF? Then that's what this is about. Scripts is a really powerful advanced feature for being able to add extra things like a live chat bot, for example, where you might want support. You have your own support team. You want to use a Zendesk little live chat bot. Then this is the place that you can add a script. You can put in the code. You might need some help with that, but there's ways of doing that. Another thing we've used, live chatbot is the most common one that we've used for people having support, and it's particularly good being able to add it sort of on a login page or a sign up page where people might be having some problems and they're not yet on the dashboard. You could add a little Zendesk or livechat.com we use a lot, and that's a way of doing support for your event. Okay, so that's design, and we go to features. Forms, as we talked about before, the ask a question button on the dashboard that you're on now. is using a form, a very simple form that's just ask what the question is and the organization of the event. You can also do much more complex forms. I'll just tease you with this because it's something that, again, Blue goes into deeply. Oops. And so you can see the types of sort of questions. I'll just show you here the types of different questions that you can put in a form. This is really handy too, because when you are asking people for their data in a form throughout your event, when you export that, then you're getting sort of registration data as well, like the first name, last name, email. They don't have to enter that. We already know who they are on the dashboard. So that's forms. Back here, we have a speakers page. On this template, we get a speakers page that's separate to the dashboard main page. So you can edit that up. Sponsors, similar sort of thing where you can have sponsors, and you can put different buttons in that goes off to people, the sponsor's website, for example. Sponsors, these speakers and sponsors page can be kind of used in different ways as well. They don't have to be specifically for speakers and sponsors. We've seen people use them for all sorts of different things, and you can add different buttons for that. One of the things that we do, just as an example, on some events, we have booths that we run during the lunch break, for example. And so now our sponsors can come in and have a booth, which is just another Zoom meeting, and they're able to meet with people during the lunch break. And that works really well. Okay, FAQ, frequently asked questions. It's just the ability to handle that, have that all on this page. Very simple. Zoom backgrounds. One of my pet hates is virtual backgrounds, but it does actually work. It works quite well with lots of attendees. When you're looking at the backgrounds, you can see that, and so you can upload your own custom Zoom backgrounds for people to use, your attendees to use. There, they download them and then use them. Image entries is this is where we saw the waterfall. Where people were doing submissions. If you happen to see TVE at the TVE event, there was a time asked for being able writing out your date and then taking a photo of yourself, a selfie, with the date written, and then uploading that. They would get uploaded. This is kind of the moderation page where you'd see all those images and you'd say yes, no, nope, definitely don't want that one. And then yes. And so you can go through, and that's where you're accepting images. Translation is an advanced feature, but it's the ability to have different, specifically different languages, text languages throughout your dashboard. So it's possible to have different languages, and that is a manual process at the moment, meaning that there's no automatic Google Translate or anything built in. We've specifically built it so that you would say, these are the words that I want to use for this language, and these are the words I want to use for this language, and you can build that out. So it's there. All right. Another really key area is the attendees, because you really need to have your attendees in. We'll talk in detail about how you can get your attendees in, but generally there's a few different ways. You can manually enter it like this. You can import it through a CSV file, and you can do an integration, and you'll see that in a moment. You can integrate it with other CRMs that will do that automatically. While I'm here, I'm just going to set one up. That's all that you need. The bare minimum that you need for an attendee is first name, last name, and email. And so now in my event, I've got one attendee ready to go, and you'll see that there's a magic link. It's already there. And if I click this button, you're welcome. That was my idea to have that button. I'm quite proud of that. You'll now see that I'm logged in as Homer Simpson, and I've gone straight to the dashboard because I've turned off all those other features of the password and the tech check and the waiver. It's all turned off, and I'm going straight to the dashboard. So you can see that I'm seeing now the dashboard as Homer Simpson would see it. All right, I'm going to keep stepping through services. So you can see here a bunch of different services that we have created as custom integrations directly with these 7. And then we have Zapier, which kind of covers probably most of the rest of them. Very, very quickly, the way that we work with other services is that we're saying somewhere you've got an attendee, you've got a first name, last name, and email that exists in some other service, and at some point you're going to say, I want to create an Obvio attendee, and then I want to get the magic link back. And that, in its simplest form, is what the integration does, where you're saying, here's my person who's just signed up, for example, in Keep, and now I want to send that over to Obvio, first name, last name, email, and then I want Obvio to give me the magic link back, and I'm going to store that in my CRM so that then I can send that out as an email, and they'll get the magic link. Zapier
So
does
just to,
that same.
can I just really quickly give you guys a real world example, because some of you may be like, what did Grant just say? I
Right.
think it was English, but on some level, it's a language that I don't fully understand, and I would love to know what the F he's talking about. Okay, so you guys know this week, during TVE, during the event, we would send you an email. And in that email, you would have a link that you could click. And when you clicked, you got to the dashboard. And Obvio, all of the dashboards are what we call, you can call them a couple different things. Some people call them gated. Some people call them like password protected, right? So oftentimes I'll refer to a dashboard as a short-term membership site for your live event. But essentially, in order to access the dashboard, it requires you to log in. But just out of curiosity, who already has more than enough username and passwords that they have to remember? Yeah, right. And you sign up for something, and 10 seconds later you're like, unless maybe you use like 1Password or one of the password managers. But I know this happens to me all the time. I sign up for something. I forget which of my 4 email addresses I used to actually sign up for it. And worse yet, I forget which of the 5 passwords that I rotate through when I'm not using my password manager to actually sign up. And like 10 seconds later, I'm using the forgot my password feature, asking for a link. Has this happened to anybody? Am I like the only one that this happens to? Okay, no, this happens to everybody. So in order to make all of our lives easier, and most importantly, in order to make it easier for our attendees to get into the platform, we've created these magic links. Right? We call them magic. Somebody else invented that term. I'm borrowing it. I'm sure it's probably copyrighted or something, but we created these magic links, and in Obvio, every single user has a unique login URL. But a lot of you already use another platform to email your attendees, right? So in our case, we use a platform called Keep. And we needed a way to get that, to pull that login URL out of Obvio and put it into Keep. So when I send you an email from Keep, I can insert, you know how you can, who uses a CRM right now, like some sort of thing to email your list. You know how when you send an email to a lot of people, you can just put a little merge code and it says, hi, Blue, hi, Mary, hi, Grant, hi, Vanita, right? You don't have to write 50 emails. You just have to write it once and it changes it for you. Well, you can, using that same tool, you can, for most platforms, embed any piece of information into an email. In our case, what we wanted to allow you to embed was the login URL that is unique to each attendee. So I didn't have to sit through and, create 882 emails every single time we sent you guys a link to come join us on the dashboard. I was able to just merge, kind of like a first name, that login URL from within Keep. That was done with this service integration. It took me all of about 13 seconds to connect Keep and Obvio because we make it super easy. And if you use one of these other services like MailChimp, HubSpot, High Level, ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, or Ontraport, we can connect with your CRM as well. Now, there are other CRMs out there. We are constantly adding to this. If you don't see the product that you use on this, email us. We would love to know which product it is because we are constantly adding to it. But in the meantime, there's a platform called Zapier, which allows you to really connect two different platforms together without having to have code without having to know how to code JavaScript and HTML and all sorts of, and know what APIs mean and so on and so forth. It allows you to really easily connect two different platforms. And Obvio, we have done the heavy lifting to give you what's called native integration with Zapier. So that's what services are. If all of that, hopefully that helped to explain it a little bit. But for us, in a real world example, every time you got an email, we were using Keep to send those emails for TVE. So I'll pass it back to you.
Nice.
Senor
I was worried that I was going a little bit too detailed on some things, and now Blue just made me feel better. But it is a key. It's a key feature. Like a key thing is, how do you get your attendees into Obvio? And so integrations is a really key thing, because you might already have CRM, you've got your list managed somewhere else, and you want to be able to tie it over here. That's a way you can do it. But just to reiterate, you don't need to have any of these services in order to use Obvio, as you could see in the way that I just created one manually by typing in Homer. And so you want to do an event with 10 people, you totally could just sit here, write those 10 people in, send them their links, and you're ready to go. So you don't have to stress. It's just that what you'll find with everything that we do with Obvio is that we see that if it works big, it works small. And so you'll be aware that we run large events, where we've had 30, 40,000 people all in Zoom and all using one Obvio dashboard. All the functionality that it was used to make that work can work for your event with 10 people. And so that's why there's always these things where it's like, okay, that can scale and that can go bigger and whatever it is. Native integration is just where we have gone and built directly. So for Keep, for example, we have worked with their API, and we're talking directly in the language that they want us to talk to them in to be able to handle that. The indirect, non-native is like Zapier. And Zapier is an intermediary where we're saying, hey, something's talking to Zapier, Zapier is talking to us, we talk back to Zapier, Zapier talks back to the other system. And that can work quite well, but there's just some efficiencies and some specific things that we can do when we do those native integrations where we're talking directly to the service. All right, that's services. Then we get to points. Points is the gamification or funification. And so that's where you can assign, as you can see here, on this default, there was a bunch that have been set up, and so that you can add points. People can get points, and then you can have a leaderboard, and people can see. It never ceases to amaze me how well it works. That people really do engage with it, because I always just think, oh man, it's just not worth it or whatever, but it really is. And what it makes people do is click on every button on the dashboard, because they start seeing that they're getting points, which is a really great thing for getting, if you've got sponsors and you want people to download a particular thing, it's a great way to encourage people to see the whole dashboard. So that's points. Labels is the ability to append a word, an emoji, something at the end of people's names in Zoom. So you're able to say, for example, in this one, we could have said everyone that has just signed up to Leap. We could append Leap in their name in Zoom, and now we would see everyone that signed up to Leap. We've used this in lots of different ways. It's very powerful where we've put emojis, for example, based on registration data or data that we've imported. We could say, we know that this person is a VIP. And so they've got a little star emoji at the end of their name. And now everyone, at least a part of your team, knows that if there's a star, then they're a VIP. You can also append a data field. And so as an example, on an event I ran, I imported everyone's state and country code and made that one field. And then I added that as a label to the end of their name. And so now I could run down a list and I could see state and country of everyone. And it was just a really handy thing to be able to call on someone and just know that they're from this particular country, or it gave me some extra context. And just one other idea on that is I also did an event with lots of doctors, but they were all in different parts of their career. And so there was interns, and there was registrars, and there was, all these professors, right? And so we added sort of their title in a way, or the classification for them. And that was really handy too for when they were asking questions. Immediately, just in chat, there was a question that would come up, and you would know whether they were an intern or whatever they were, and that would give you just a little bit of context in how you would answer the question. A professor asked a question, you may not give as detailed an answer. Just a good example of how we can use labels in Zoom. The leaderboard is literally a sort of a back-end way to be able to see the leaderboard and to see exactly where people are, and you can search for a particular person, things like that. That's what that's about with the gamification. All right, you're all doing very well. We only got a couple more left. I really want to get to your questions, and thank you to our longer term users who are hanging out, who have asked questions. We really appreciate it. But hopefully this is helpful to you guys as well, that you might have missed a couple of these little things along the way. You're like, I wonder what that was about. So Zoom areas, while we're here. So Zoom area is a collection of Zoom meetings. And so the reason that we do this is that particularly for larger events where you might have more than 1,000 people, or a need for more meetings than just one Zoom meeting, we bundle them together so that we can say a main stage, for, as an example, is my area, and we think of that like a stadium or something, where it's a huge stadium and then you have sections within it. And there's sections, and those sections are Zoom meetings. We call them Zoom rooms. So that's a room, and then you have an area. So every Zoom room has to sit within an area. That's how they're created. So the very first thing that you need is a Zoom area. And so we're going to create one. I'm just going to call it main stage. I just hit enter on that, but you can go back and you'll see there's a couple of options there, and they're advanced features that Blue goes into in the other walkthrough. But what the default is all you need to be able to get this going. What this just did is it created my area. I kind of hit enter as I was hitting main stage. So my area is called main stage, and what's happened is it's gone and created a Zoom meeting. And so you can see here one Zoom meeting, and now I'm ready to go. I've got this area and I've got a Zoom meeting. So what I'm just going to do quickly is I'm just going to jump back to the dashboard quickly, and I'm going to make this main stage button. So now This is the little icon that's there. This is the text of what the button is. And I'm going to say I want it to join an area. So I could say it can be a link off to any other page, but no, I want it to join an area. And now I've got my main stage button there. Choosing that, I'm saving, and now this button is going to update. And now that's how we get people in, and this is how you got into this meeting. You clicked on the button and it launched Zoom. And you remember that you didn't have to be logged into Zoom, you didn't have to enter any information, all of that just worked all seamlessly. And that's a key value of ours, is that none of our hosts, none of our admins, and definitely none of our attendees have to log into Zoom or put passwords in or do any of that. They just get in. Miriam's very happy. So yes, we're proud of that. Hopefully Zoom doesn't cut us off from doing that at some point, but it's working very nicely and still all very secure. So just to talk about that very briefly, if you were to go into, you know how you can see at the top of this meeting, you can see there's the green checkbox, and you can, the shield, and you can click that and you can get the meeting ID and the password, and you could send that to whoever you want. What would happen is when they went to join the meeting, it would go to a Zoom registration page. They would enter that in, and then it would say, the organizer of this meeting has to manually approve your registration, and they would get nowhere. So you can only join these meetings if you're an attendee on the dashboard and going through it that way. They can't share the link and get people in. All right, so I've now got my button set up. I'm happy with that. I am just going to continue so that I don't forget, I'm going to step through these other things. So we were on the Zoom area, we created one, we created a room. Then our Zoom attendance is a really new feature, and this is where we can dive into who was at your event exactly when, and you can start looking at a particular window. And we've built this out specifically that's very useful for enrollment events, particularly where you're doing a pitch, and you've done a pitch at a particular time, and you want to know exactly who was there, and also it'll conversely be telling you who wasn't there, right? So you're able to actually take that data and say, here's the 10 people that were there, and you'll say, I want to tag them in the attendees to say that they were there for the pitch, as an example. And now you can send out some emails that one is going to the people that saw the pitch, and you could set up another email for the people that missed it. And then you can target those groups. There's some highly complex things in this. It's a very cool feature, and we're really excited about being able to see that. So you can see when people left and when people joined, and the total number of attendees in that graph. So that's attendance. We'll just have a quick look at production, which is the emoji page. If you happen to see TVE, you might have seen how there was emojis flying up on the screen behind Blue and Barry. So they were when people were clicking the buttons on the dashboard, the emoji buttons on the dashboard. This is sort of the back end way to be able to get a page with the emojis on it. So there's a few different ways. There's some production techniques that you can use to get this into the whole. You can imagine that the studio at Blue's amazing studio can do a lot of things that make overlaying those emojis on top of everything else, sort of this complex production gear that they need to make that happen. But for most people that might just want to have a TV with the emojis flying on it behind them, you can, you're looking at this page and it's really got nothing on it because it's just a white page, but you could upload your event logo as an example, as a background, put that on this screen, and then have emojis flying up over the top of a logo, which is just a really cool feature. So that's emojis. And then the image waterfall is the page we were talking about where people uploaded their images, And now you just want to have a page where you can just see all the images floating up. Once again, perfect for if you just had a TV in your set behind you and you had people's faces and things floating up. You just open this page and you'll see all the approved images flying up, and you've got a little bit of customization of the delay between each one and all the columns. So that's what image waterfall is. All right. Well done, everyone. You hung around to the bottom of the list on the menu. So all we're going to do now is I just want to show you how to get Zoom going, and then we're done for this little walkthrough, and then we'll get to your questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Zoom areas where we were, main stage, and I can do it right from here. So I just want to explain quickly. There is open area and there's open room. What happens here is when you hit open room, that tells Obvio, hey, get all Zoom ready because I'm about to start Zoom, right? Open area is specifically about letting people into your Zoom meeting. So what this is particularly helpful for is that you can open the room and you can start it and have Zoom started. You can do all of your checks. It's kind of our waiting room, right? Is when the area is not open. We like this better than pushing people through to a Zoom waiting room, although you could do that. What this does is it brings up an offline, Zoom offline page that you can customize. And so when you customize that, you can say, hey, we're going to open the doors at 9:30 a.m. And what happens there is that your attendees sit on that offline page, and it's sitting in the background checking if the area is open. And as soon as it opens, it pushes them through into Zoom. And so the people don't have to refresh or hit the button again. It'll just automatically let them in. And so that's what happens when you open area. But the way to get Zoom going is literally just open rooms, and then you hit start. Now, actually, if I do, it gave me that message because I was outside of the window, that I said that my event was going to run. But we should be okay. I must have set the time wrong, but it's okay. It's still going to launch Zoom. And so that button is launching Zoom as the host. You're not going to see it. What I can see is that I have a whole new meeting that's just launched, and it's Zoom, and I'm the host. And it's a full enterprise version of Zoom, and all of those extra features that we were talking about, where you have full 1080p HD video, you have cloud recording, unlimited cloud recording. You have you're the host, and you have 100 breakout rooms and things like that. So it's all of the standard. There's nothing cut down about it. It's the standard Zoom and enterprise version. And so that brought me in as my name, and I'm the host. And now you can have other people join, and then if you open the area, then all of your attendees could join as well. I can just show you, if we go back to Homer. So this is logged in as Homer, and I didn't refresh this page, by the way. It's automatically updated. So this updated without having for anyone to refresh. So if you need to make a last minute change, it takes about a minute, and then you'll know that everyone has the updated information. So you make those last minute changes, or you enable a button, for a particular time, things like that. So if you click, we're going to get the offline message. This is just going to be a default offline. So yeah, main stage currently offline. And as I said, you can totally customize this page. If I had the area online, I opened the area and the room was open and the Zoom meeting was open, all that would happen here is they'd go straight through to Zoom, and it would launch into Zoom, and they'd be named as the attendee. It would say Homer Simpson in Zoom, and away we go. no logins, no nothing. You just, obviously if they don't have Zoom installed, we'll ask them to install Zoom and do that process. But who doesn't have Zoom installed now? Not many. All right. So we kind of got to the end, right? So I encourage you to do exactly that process. And say you've got a family Zoom meeting, you're just like, hey everyone, I just want to play around with this. Can we do our little family get together on this new platform? And then play around with it, and by all means do that. So you can have unlimited events, unlimited duration. You just go for it. All right. I know that we've got some questions. Did we lose Blue in the process? It's like, I've heard this before. What I just wanted to check is if there's any specific questions. Nah, it's okay. That's all right. I was just thinking if there was questions related to that, but inevitably the questions will be related to everything I just walked through. So that's cool. Heather, who Blue mentioned before, who looks after a lot of our support tickets, is normally on these calls, or is often on these calls, and she runs all the questions for me, which is particularly helpful. And when I said about not teching your own show, that's one thing. I think it's also good not to chat moderate yourself as well, right? Or question manage. So you have a question manager. Such an easy thing to do, and all they do is they keep an eye on the chat, and they're like, "Hey Grant, we've got a question in the chat," or whatever it is. So I'm telling you what we should do, and not what we are actually doing right now on this call. Heather is awesome. I agree. So what I'm doing right now is pulling up our back-end system to see your questions. I see we've got a bunch there.
Hey Grant, what's the best way to ask a question in this meeting?
So that's a nice little softball question from Muddy. Thank you. So as we said on the dashboard, there's the ask a question button. And so we've had a handful of people that have done that. And that's the most efficient way for us to work through the questions, and to be able to sort them and to get them. But I'll also take some hands raised as well. But I just want to get to some of these text questions first, as people have spent some time doing that. So let me just see. Oh, there we go. So Esther asked, what's the spectrum of things I can do with the Obvio software? Hopefully what we just stepped through there is kind of giving you a good idea. And on these weekly calls, as Blue said, you don't need to come every time. One of the things you might have noticed is that we are live streaming to YouTube. The reason that I do that is purely for the recording. It makes it really easy for you to go back and get the recording, because it's available immediately. And so we add each one of these weeks. There's a playlist. It's on the dashboard as well. So you might have seen that there on the dashboard. You can come back to the dashboard at any time, and you'll see the week's call, the call that was just that we just had. And if you're having trouble sleeping, you can put that on, listen to my voice, and that will help you nod off. You can ask a question as well at any time on that dashboard too, because they're just stored. Those questions are stored. And so if there's just something that you're thinking of, you could go to the dashboard at any time during the week, add that question, and we'll get to it the next time. And then you don't even need to come, because we'll still answer the question, and then it'll be on the recording on that YouTube video, and you can go back and watch it. So that's how we do it. And this is us doing these weekly calls is a big justification for or an avoidance of us doing really good documentation. So we're like, forgive us, we haven't got lots of good documentation, but we are available every week for you to come and ask your questions. And so that's the thinking there. All right. So Esther, does that kind of answer that? Each time we'll come back to when we are doing these calls, we sort of talk about what people are doing, and inevitably you hear someone's doing this, or how do I do this? I want to do this slightly interesting thing. You start to learn a bit more about what people are doing with the platform. All right, let's see. All right. Bertha, I just joined Leap and I'm excited to work with you. What does a newbie need to know to get started? I love these questions because I feel like I've just already answered them. You need to know all the things I just walked through. So hopefully that gets you a quick start into using the system. And then, as Blue said, we've got those workshop videos that are really in depth about how each one of these features works. And I encourage you to work through those because they're really great. Okay, that was Bertha. I'm getting through a few of these. Do you have a sample waiver we can use as, that was Dee Dee, to use as a client enter the dashboard? Okay, so an important thing to say about waivers is that they are a legal document, and so that you should really have an attorney work through that for you. If you email help@obv.io, we can give you an example with that understanding that it could be a legal document, and that you really should have an attorney look over that. So that's our disclaimer there. Okay. Can you change your name on the organization? Mine is wrong. Need to change it. Yeah, you sure can. So I can show you quickly if we go back. You'll actually see it right. All right, I'm just going to share again. Show you that quickly. So I'm actually in an event at the moment, but over here is my organization, and I can go to settings. This is my organization settings. And I can put whatever I want. I can change my organization name, and now it's updated everywhere. So you want to change that from a different name or whatever it is, then you can do that. That's where you find that. Cool.
Hey, Blue or Grant, sorry.
Yes.
I've only done that 6 times. Do you want to tell them about that? Did you tell them about that little chat box down
Yeah,
on the left?
I didn't. Thank you, Amy. Look at this. People got my back. I will show you that right now. That generally during Eastern business hours, although it can be outside of that as well, down here there's a little live chat box that you can put a message in. Now, you can put a message in at any time, and that'll go through to our system, and that'll become an email ticket, and we can reply to it there. But generally during Eastern business hours, you'll catch Heather or James or one of us to be able to help you if you're looking for some help. So we don't have a chat bot on that at all. It literally is a person that can help you through some things. Thank you, Amy. Okay. How does the assistant, Stephanie, how does the assistant tell me there is a question? Do I need an earpiece? It's a good question. Yeah, I guess it's a few different ways of doing it, but generally the way that we do it
The easiest way would be this. Hey, Grant, we have a
Yeah.
question from let's see, we have a question from Muddy, and Muddy would like to know how to log in for Obvio for this first time. Grant, can you answer that for us?
Yeah. Let me take 45 minutes and show you the whole system. I'm just going to show you really quickly. It's really simple.
Sometimes
minutes.
the easiest answer is the answer, right? So while yes, everybody in Zoom is going to hear your assistant say that, there are way more complicated ways to do what we just did. But honestly, we oftentimes the simplest answer is the answer, and it's just allow them to unmute inside of Zoom and ask you the question.
Simple, simple works very well all the time, and I think I really like the interaction of that as well. So rather than I'm hearing something in my ear and people are like, "What's going on?" You're trying to be like a newsreader. I just like you hearing different voices. You get the question, and then that gives the host a chance to have a little break as well, which is great. All right, we are getting through. We've got a few. All right, we've got a few from our long-term users, which is cool. Dorita, can we talk about the day 3 recording that never processed? Okay, there was a particular thing that's super rare that I found in Zoom, the cloud recording, that is saying that it's still processing in Zoom, and it's been a month. So that's super rare, but it's possible, right? And that's why we always suggest that your Zoom cloud recording is your backup, potentially your backup of your backup. So if it's super important that you've got a recording, then find other ways of recording. So recording locally, doing screen capture recordings on local computers, using the camera that you're using, have a recording of that. Always have multiple recording backups. I don't know what else to tell you about that particular one. In the 4 years that we've been hammering Zoom, I haven't had that happen. There is things about connections, about how the server connects to the cloud recording, and sometimes maybe that gets messed up or something. I know that there was a 7-second recording before it, which tells me that the recording was turned off. I don't know then how it was then turned back on. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for if that was the only recording, but yeah, there is. I think there is no hope of getting that one back. Sorry to say.
Yeah, we were going, if you look at the other days, there are like multiple recordings because we go on and off for like modules. And so I wasn't producing, but I was on it, and Elizabeth was producing, but I'm certain it was on and off because we were doing the run of show. So it didn't catch any of them, just the first 6 seconds. So yeah. But I didn't know if that was something where, is it possible it's held at Zoom or anything like that?
I don't think so. The fact that it's only one recording that says that it's processing as well, and that there's no other listings of any other recording, it was just one, tells me that it just hasn't worked. I had something recently where I was trying to hit record, and it said cannot connect to the cloud server, which was an interesting thing that I'd not seen. But I haven't had that since, and so. But I also have local recordings and things, and so that's the other thing, is when you're hitting record, you have the option to do a local record in Zoom, which is, I think, consider that still a backup as well, right? But it means that whatever that computer is getting on its screen, it's going to record locally on that computer, and that's a good backup to have, backup to your cloud. So it's possible to set that up too. Cool. Let's see. Justin, is there an easy way to have a tag applied based on a form answer that then reveals a new button? Blue, did you hear that one?
Yeah, no. It's a little it's a little bit different than that. So what you can do inside of rules is for your buttons, there's an option for form responses to be a rule. So you can go in and you can select form responses, then you can select the form, then you can select the question, then you can select the answer, and essentially say, and this only works for multiple choice style questions, right? So
Boxes?
check boxes. Yeah, it'll work for check
Okay.
boxes.
It is a checkbox.
Yeah.
It's just a simple yes.
Yeah, then it'll work for it'll work for the checkbox. And essentially what you do is, yeah, you can go all the way down and you select the yes option. And then when somebody answers a question and has yes checked, the next time they load the dashboard, they'll see that button that has that visibility rule associated with it.
That works.
Yeah. Yeah, you can apply a tag on a form being submitted. You can't apply an external tag on a specific answer. So that's why we put this into place for that specific reason.
That would work.
Cool.
Cool. So now for our newcomers, you'll get the flow of how these calls work, where you'll go from a super basic question like, how do I do this? I've never done it before, to really, really advanced, like, how do I do this? And how do I connect, keep, and do this? And then I want it to do these 5 steps, and and so then we jump into a really advanced topic as well. So if you didn't catch some of that and some of the answers to other questions, it totally is fine. And don't feel like you can't ask then a basic, straightforward question, because that's what these are for. These calls don't build on each other. They're just available for everyone. So I've lost my page. Here we go. All right. That's that one. Justin, I think you've got another one, which was about the active
I can
campaign.
explain it. It was
Yeah.
weird. So we were building registration for an event coming up in the beginning of April. And we had done a test registration and they did the approval, all that. Probably about 45 minutes later, we were working on our stuff, came back, realized none of the registrations that come through to Obvio had gone in. I hit import attendees inside of Active Campaign. They imported, but with no tags. And then about 10-15 minutes later, they still had no tags, but the tags were coming back to Active Campaign because I could see the attendee created tag had been applied, but they weren't showing in Obvio.
Justin,
And then what's really weird is I disconnected Active Campaign, reconnected it, cleared attendees, re-imported, then it was fine. Then they came through.
Yeah, we have had some, I will just tell you anecdotally, because we haven't been able to recreate this in the moment. We have seen some interesting behavior with the Active Campaign API. And because that's what's going on, right? When you click import, we are pinging the Active Campaign, Obvio is pinging the Active Campaign API and saying, hey, could I get every attendee who has this tag over to Obvio? And then when Active Campaign says, here you go, we then follow up and say, oh, by the way, could we get the tags that each of these attendees have? In English, that's what we're doing. And every once in a while, we get some inconsistent data. So we've been trying to track it to see if it's something that we're doing. And we've also reached out to Active Campaign to try and track it down that way. And so far, no luck, but also so far, we haven't been able to recreate it. It just happens anecdotally. So if you see that happen again, because what we have done is we've added a whole bunch of logs around that particular process, not anything that you'll see inside the application, but inside our internal logging system to try and track down the issue. If that happens again, if you'll email us and say, this just happened, this is the time it took place, that would be super helpful to us. I'm trying to actually track this particular.
Because it did it on our last event back in January. Every so often, it would just I knew there were attendees registered and they just never came in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you, Justin, outside of if you can get me that information. And now it's probably like it happened at some point, which is not a place that anybody likes to be. But if we can, we have tried to recreate the issue, right? I have an Active Campaign account that has 15,000 contacts in it. I do large events inside of Active Campaign all the time, trying to recreate this issue, and I'm not able to, which just tells me, to be honest with you, and this isn't a pretty response, because I I hate it when companies say this, right? When you call a company and they're like, hey, we're having this problem and I'm trying to connect your platform to like Google to Facebook. And let's say you call Google, right? And Google will invariably blame Facebook. And if you call Facebook, Facebook will invariably, and that's assuming you could actually reach either of these two companies by phone. But Facebook would then invariably blame Google. And that's basically, it's like, oh, well, it must be their problem. Oh, it must be their problem. So I hate that answer, like with a passion, because as a user, I hate to get it. So I'll just say we're trying to track it down, and we're doing everything in our power to fix it.
Cool.
Yeah, I would add to that and say I also hate that, and I hate when support just assume that it's your fault. And so that's something that we are really careful about, that we assume that it's our fault to start with. And that way we go through and we can try, kind of rule that out, that that we're not seeing it. But then there's these ones where there's just something weird and you just can't quite nail it, So, cool. Irina said, "Is it possible to know who exactly checked in if the class is free and check-in is disabled?" Yes, it is. You want to do it? So in the attendee export, there's a field there that says checked in. We sort of have a term that's sort of overlapping a little bit, but there is tech check and then there's check-in. And check-in for us is that they've gone to the dashboard. So they've arrived at the dashboard. When you do an export of your attendees, you'll see checked in at, and you'll see the time that they checked in, and that means that they went to the dashboard. So incidentally, that's also how we're calculating how many attendees are active for your event. And so that was something that we changed. And Irina, you've been on the journey for a while. You would know that at one point we were charging or we were calculating based on every attendee that you had in there, whether they showed up or not. More recently, we changed it to only the people that hit your dashboard is what is counted as an active attendee. And your active attendees, for most people here, you can have 500 attendees in your event. After 500, you start paying add-ons for groups of 250 active attendees. So it's particularly helpful because lots of people run free events. They have a heap of people register and then they never show up. The show up rate, particularly on free events, can be 25-30%. And so we're only counting the people that have hit. They haven't necessarily gone into Zoom, but they've gone to the dashboard. So they've clicked a link, they've gone and seen your dashboard. They're counted as an active attendee. So if you do your attendee export, you're going to see an extra field in there that says checked in at, and you'll see the exact time that they went to the dashboard for the first time. Then apart from that, you could then do your Zoom attendance and your Zoom area exports where you can see how long people were in Zoom. And something to look at as well, there's a summary and there's a details export that you can do on your Zoom attendance exports. Summary means that it's going to say that the person attended your event and they had 5 different sessions that they joined, as in they logged in and logged out 5 times, and the total time that they were in for the whole event was 4 hours. Or you can get the detailed export where it says a line in the spreadsheet for every time they joined and when they left. And so then you'd get those 5 different entries for the same person: time they entered, time they left, how long that was. So that's kind of the tracking. We find this particularly helpful for when we're doing event analysis, and particularly helping to understand what someone's journey was as well. Cool. Irina, you also said, what is the broadcast limit? 1 welcome email, 3 emails, and 2 SMSs. What would it be? What would the best times be to send SMS?
I'll actually just correct that. There are no limits on SMS. So you can send more than just 2 SMSs per day. And the limits on broadcasting, I actually put them in the chat because Linnell asked something very similar. So for those of you wondering, there are some limitations on the email system, the email broadcast system that we have inside of Obvio. There's some real important reasons for that. The most important reason, we don't want anybody to unknowingly or perhaps knowingly spam their attendees over and over and over again. Because bad spam scores from one user is really bad for all of us. So the limits look like this. During your event, you can email your attendees 3 times per day. Before your event, you can email your attendees once, up to 7 days before your event begins. After your event, you can email them one more time, within 7 days. In addition to that, there is a welcome email that is able to be set to be sent to your attendees upon registration, which doesn't count towards your broadcasts. So those are essentially the limits. Now, there's a couple things that are important. That doesn't mean that you can only send 3 broadcasts per day. It means that your attendees, each individual attendee, can only receive 3 emails from you per day. Why is that important? Well, you may have VIP attendees and general admission attendees. That's the easiest distinction. And you may want to send each of them different communication, right? You may want to acknowledge your VIPs as being VIPs when you send it. So you can send out 3 broadcasts to your VIP attendees, and you can then send out 3 broadcasts to your non-VIP attendees. And even though you're sending out 6 emails, each individual attendee will receive all 3 of them, because you're setting it up to only send out 3 total per person. So that's why that's important. So you can actually send out more than 3 broadcasts, but if you happen to send out, let's say you send out 4 broadcasts to all your attendees, nobody will receive the 4th because they all will have already received 3 emails. So that's kind of how it works. Now, how do we come up with those numbers? Well, if you go back and you take a look at the emails that you got for TVE, that's how we came up with them. Like, we take a look at what our best practices are. Oftentimes what we do within Sage, in the event company, from a best practices perspective, will bleed over into certain things that take place within Obvio, and this is one of those things. Right? So we would recommend during your event that you send out an email at the start of the day. We'd recommend you send out another email as you're coming back from lunch. If you have a dinner session, we'd recommend you send out another email that you're coming back from dinner. So that's the reason why you can do 3. And then SMSs, I think I missed who asked that question. I think it may have been Irina. There used to be a limit on SMSs, that is correct. But when there was a theoretical limit before we actually launched the feature. And then when we launched the feature, there is no limit to how many SMSs you can send out. So there you go.
Just on that, Amy was asking, how did they make the SMS go out every time I had to leave the meeting for TVE? I think it might have.
I'm not sure we did. I will tell you that I contemplated doing something like that.
Coincidental, I think, right?
Yeah, I think
It was pretty magic. Every time I'd have to leave, I'd get a text.
I will just say that just is dumb luck more than something that took place.
It was magic.
Yeah, well, exactly. Dumb luck also is kind of like magic. Those 2 things are interchangeable in reality.
Obvio magic.
Yeah, exactly. Although I will tell you this, I did contemplate setting up a text message that triggered we would have had to do some fancy footwork in the background to do this, but sending out a text message every time somebody left Zoom that said, "Aw, where are you going?" I just think that would have been funny. And I'll tell you the reason why I didn't do it is because when we send people off on lunch breaks, they leave. So I kind of thought that'd be super annoying. I couldn't find a way to. Yeah. Oh, why'd you leave? And then we'd get 100 replies back because you told me to.
Told me to go have lunch,
Yeah, exactly.
or
Uh,
you told me to go to the welcome celebration. What are you talking about?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I really did contemplate doing something along those lines, but I didn't have enough time to really pull it off. But it is on my list of
It would be cool.
possible to-dos. Yeah.
What so what did you do? Were you scheduling for kind of session starts or kind of
Yeah, so
something like that?
we did a couple of things. We tied a tag application to Zoom attendance. So at 7th or 11:30 in the morning, day one and day two, we scheduled an SMS to go out that said, like, "Are you coming? Where are you?" Something along those lines. And at like 11:29, we ran a Zoom attendance process that tagged everybody who was in attendance at that time, essentially.
See, it was Zoom magic or Obvio magic.
Well, yeah, but you just happened to leave at the time that we were scheduling something. It wasn't because you left. It wasn't specifically because you left.
All right, cool. Because it always would say things like, "Where you been? I've been on stage for 30 minutes." It
Well,
was cute.
we do
Good.
tend to write those you coming emails or text messages with a little bit of cheek in mind.
Oh, so Sally just left us in Sparkle Academy. I was literally just about to come to her because she raised her hand an hour and a half ago. Um, so sorry, Sally. Uh, um, okay, Irina, can I place a survey form with check all that applies options in the dashboard blog area? Check all that applies. Like check boxes or
Yeah, it sounds like it is checkboxes. So yes, you can. The question type, I think, is it called multiple choice or is it called checkbox? I think it's called checkbox.
it could be checkbox, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, you can do that.
yeah, they're essentially separate questions, really, with a checkbox. Because it's
Mm,
not a rate. Oh, yeah, no, maybe not. Um,
I mean, you could do a check all that applies like helper note, where you're like, how old are your kids? And you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever. And it's like check all that applies. Um,
that was a weird
so
example.
I know I couldn't come up with
Can
anything
I
quick
just
enough. I'm
ask,
sorry.
Blue, can I just ask? I want to know this and this and this, all three, like they check everything that applies to you. This one applies, the second applies, and the third applies. Not
Yeah,
just one option, but all of them. And how
yeah,
to do it.
right. So what Grant is showing you right now is exactly how you would do it. So I will stop talking and let him tell you.
Well, well, that's if I get it right.
Don't worry,
that
I'll
seems.
correct you if you don't.
That's, thank you.
I would I would use the helper text for the
Yeah,
text that applies. Yeah.
yeah. Um, checkbox colors. Yeah. Yep. Does that you got that, Arena?
Yeah, so Irina, you would add a question that is a checkbox. In the question, you would say, which of the following best describes you, right? And then you would have, like, just as an example, or which of the following do you find happening to you on a daily basis as it relates to your mindset? Right? And then you could have like option one, when I wake up in the morning, I feel sad. When I go to bed at night, I feel sad. When I am in the middle of my day, I feel happy. And then you could at the bottom say, check all that applies. I know that's not the question that you're actually asking them, but it doesn't really matter what it is. And then you could of course do it just like that.
I was just trying to do what you suggested. What are
No,
the ages
it
of
was a
your
bad idea. It was a
kids?
bad idea. It was a bad idea. Don't do that.
All right, just having some fun. Um, uh, thank you. Is Jeff still here? Yes, Jeff. Thank you. You either have gotten more angelic or your hair light is working overtime, which isn't. It is. I do have a hair
This is
light.
a burning question.
See, and if I turn it right up, I turn it right up. There you go. Look at that.
Wow, that's quite the halo. Overachiever. Nice work.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's all
Revealing.
I need. I'll let you know if I break something before next week's call. Thanks.
Okay, great. Excellent. Nice. All right, we're getting close to the bottom, and then we can take some hands raised as well. So Christy is saying, you might have already answered this, but I was practicing last night by trying to hack the TVE7 Obvio dashboard using Town Hall. Was that the right template? Did you get the rounded CTA call to action buttons using HTML, or did I miss the styling prompt somewhere?
Yeah, so
Interesting.
the town hall dashboard template technically is not available yet. I know it was visible for a brief period of time. There are a couple of minor tweaks that we have to do to it, and then it'll be available. I'll say to you that it'll be available for everybody on Monday of this coming week because it's really close because we used it for it. We've now used it for 2 events. And what I try to do for those of you who are new, what we try to do internally here at Sage is I try to break the stuff before I let you try to break the stuff, is essentially what's going on. So so we've used the town hall template now for a couple of events. And it's the newest of the, I guess now 6 templates that we have. And yes, TVE was being used for that. Now, in terms of rounded buttons, that's not a new feature. Any buttons that you have on the platform can be rounded the same way the TVE buttons were. And what you're looking for is the border radius setting. So you don't add the border. So don't add a border thickness. You just apply a large border radius, and it will make the button rounded. So like Grant is showing in his screenshot right now, if you were to click save, now the main button, the main stage button has a rounded corner. So that's how you do that particular style, is to increase your border radius.
There we go. All right, last one. David, please explain how you set up Ovio for a pre-recorded webinar, 50 minutes, with multiple scheduled viewing options.
Was that David Garrett?
Yeah.
So David, I'm gonna give you the really, really short version. This is not an Obvio feature.
Okay. But what you did for TVE, that wasn't in Obvio.
Well, it was in Obvio, but how we pre-scheduled all of those pre-recorded, like how we played all of those pre-recorded videos wasn't through Obvio. It used Obvio, but there was another service that was tacked on top of Obvio called A Event, the letter A and then the word event.com. And essentially, the folks at A Event have built out an integration with our platform, with Obvio, so that A Event users can upload a video to their platform and schedule times that that video plays inside of Zoom. And the extra stuff that they've done is you can specify which event inside of your account it goes to, and then of course which area, and then which room specifically within that area that video plays to. And then when it comes time for it, A Event automagically, without you having to touch anything, opens the area, opens the room, and starts the meeting. and then presses play on the video. So it kind of does everything magically in the background. But all of that happened through a event, right? It was a event's magic sauce that was doing that, not Obvio. It was doing it to Obvio or for Obvio, but it wasn't Obvio itself that was doing that. That's a feature from another platform.
Okay, so is it all happening then in a event, or can we design our presentation pages in Obvio and have, for every broadcast at every scheduled time, it's the same format, same appearance,
Well,
etc.
so I think what I will probably do, David, is I will see if I can get the owner of a event to come online with us inside of Leap and share a little bit about how we did the webinar technically. We'll have it probably be a bonus call because it is really kind of one of those, I would call it an advanced level move. For a number of reasons. Number one, like the most important reason is the platform itself is not inexpensive. A event is like $500 a month. Now, when you talk about $500 a month, we essentially if I had to hire somebody or pay somebody to open up Zoom, press play on a video, and then close Zoom 6 times a day for 17 days, which is what essentially we did, it would have probably cost me more than the $500 I spent with a event, right? So you have to think about it, and does it make sense for you? In our case, it did make sense because we didn't have the bandwidth to do that manually, which we had done previously in the past. So it's not an inexpensive platform, but it is a pretty cool platform and did some pretty neat things with Obvio.
Okay, so then to maybe shift the question a bit in terms of Obvio, if you have a pre-recorded content that you want to have on a page in order to register to someone to, let's say, a discovery session or or direct to a purchase, can you create multiple Obvio pages and then just have the broadcast times or the scheduled times for those happening at different times? In other words, rather than having, something like a event, I don't mean, an infinite number of times, but within a limited time period.
Well, so why don't I answer it this way? Before we used a event, what we did is and we had, like, a couple of years ago, we had an evergreen webinar that we played, like a pre-recorded webinar that was played inside of Obvio. And how we did it is we essentially had a computer connected to Zoom that was playing a video via OBS, and OBS was then seen as the camera source for Zoom. And we would manually, at the time of the webinar, log into Zoom, open up OBS, press play on the video, and wait until the video was over. And then we would end the meeting and shut it down. So you can do that 100%. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. It's just it's a manual process. We used a event to automate it, which really what it allowed for, the big thing that it allowed for is when we did it manually, we only did like 1 webinar a day because it was just too much to occupy somebody for that entire time. When we did a event, when we were using a event to play a pre-recorded webinar, we were able to play that webinar 6 times a day because it didn't require a human. Yeah. So it just allowed us to really open up the options for people to sign up for different times, which increased our attendance. So that was the key.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool. DD was just asking, do you have an email sequencing and messaging template for verbiage and frequency? No, but it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we don't currently, although it is something that we are talking about using the TVE7 templates. And for those of you who are in Leap, you'll probably see something along those lines. It'll be in a Word doc or a Google Doc or something like that, that you're going to be able to get access to within the next month or so as our team kind of pulls it all together. But we're going to take everything that we did for TVE7, all the marketing campaigns and everything, and allow you to see from a timing perspective when we sent out things, because we probably sent out a lot more communication than you personally saw, right? Because the moment you signed up for the event, you stopped seeing communication. So we're going to be putting all of that into, at least as a starting point, into a Google Doc, and get you guys access to it. So if you're in Leap, yes, you will see some of that.
Good. Miriam. Hey.
Okay, hello. And
Hello.
thank you for having me. I'm excited to be in Leap.
I could
And
tell. You've been
I'm
excited for an hour and a half.
yeah. Oh, I can't even tell you. I feel that this is the opportunity of a lifetime. I just want to say that truly. I've had to, over the course of the last 15 years, learn a lot of tech, and I don't like tech.
Mm.
And what I see with Leap and with what you've done is you've sort of converged a lot of different tech issues into one easy space in order to just go. So you're not having to learn 15 different things, which is very exciting. So I just want to say thank you, because it's a lot. I mean, for people who are not tech, it's like, I mean, what you've done here is spectacular. So I just want to say that and say thank you. I do have a couple of questions. You may have even have gotten to them or said them. You know, like you said, nothing is a silly question, but because I have more than one hat that I'm wearing, I'm wondering, when you make an event, am I able to make like 4 events at the same time? And then when I'm you have the templates there, okay? So if I pull the basic template, right? And then I recreate my own unique signature on it, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I save that template from my own unique signature for the future. Am I able to do that? So after that event is over, do I lose that template that I've created?
So sort of, it's just different words for achieving the same sort of thing, right? So what we would say is you're duplicating an event, and you can duplicate an event at any point, right? So
Okay.
your event's finished, and now remember too that you might want to reuse that event, and you can do that too. You know, where you could remove all of your attendees if you wanted to, and you change some dates, and now you can just reuse that same event. But you might want to just keep that event sort of encapsulated, ready, you know, like so you can refer to it and go back to it and keep it all separate. And so then you could duplicate it. And when you duplicate an event, which is just in the organization settings, you have some options. I'll show you this quickly, and then you'll know where you're going. So you're not technically saving your own template, but there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you making kind of a default event that you know that you're going to replicate,
Right.
and just have that, and then duplicate it, and then duplicate it again for your next ones, right?
Yeah, and the cool
sometimes
thing is sorry to interrupt you, Miriam. When you duplicate an event, there's a couple things just to keep in mind. The most important thing to know is it doesn't duplicate attendees. It really is just duplicating the event structure. So
right.
first off, you don't lose anything. You don't ever have to, I mean, I have all of the events that we have ever done on this platform are in my account, and I can go back and look at them at any time. And second, any one of them can be duplicated at any time. And third, what I will also tell you is this is how we start every single client event on the Sage side of things that comes back for another event. I go to the previous event, I duplicate it because I have a starting point that way. I don't have to recreate everything
Mhm.
from scratch.
Right.
It was a feature that when we launched wasn't there, and I think it was probably one of the most applauded features when we finally when we finally had it in place, because it was like, oh, finally I can just copy an event that I've done previously. How awesome is that? So much easier. So yeah, it is there. Yeah.
So I'm still going to be left with the framework of the original templates that you've made. I make the event, then I can duplicate that event and continue really either using it or tweaking it for my future needs. And once it's duplicated, okay, so here's the original event, then I duplicate it, then I can save this one as another template, and it just keeps going from there
It's
and
not so
growing.
it's I'm actually kind of like Grant was saying it, we're saying the same thing using slightly different words. Okay.
Okay.
So I would say to you that you don't actually create a template inside of Obvio. What you do is you're
Mhm.
creating events, and you can duplicate any one of those events at any time. So
Okay.
the reason I'm not using the word template is because we actually use the word template for the design structure of the dashboard, right? So you have 6 templates to choose from. You can customize each of those templates to be whatever you want them to be in terms of colors and graphics and make it your own, but it's still within that templated structure. So that's why I'm not using the word template, and I'm just saying once you've customized our template, you can then
Customized.
duplicate.
Yep.
Yeah, you can then duplicate that work by duplicating the event over and over and over again.
And thank you so much. I am so excited. Just
It's awesome.
can't even. Thank you. That's all I had for my question. Have a great
It's really
day.
cool. I would just add to that. I think what you're most likely to do is you're going to run an event. You're going to do all your changes on that event, and then when it comes to doing the next one, you'll duplicate that rather than going from more of a blank one, because there'll be lots of things that you'll do that all you'll need to do is change a few dates and some a bit of the copy and whatever, versus having more of a blank one that just happens to have some of your logos and things. I think you'll find that you're just like, just give me how I ended that event, and I'll start with that and work backwards from it. And I think you'll find that you're closer to where you want to be than starting with more of a blank one. But you can do that. As we said, you have as many events as you like. And so you could definitely even, and I recommend this, is creating a demo of each one of the templates, the different designs, and bash around on them a little bit and just see what you like.
Yeah. So I can have 2 events actually active, or 10 events active at the same time, or not.
Yes. So let's be clear about this, and that is that your dashboard, you can have as many dashboards as you want, which are events, and they are all active, and your attendees can view them before, during, and after your event. None of that is time specific. You can have as many as you want doing that.
Okay.
Where it gets specific is when you're using Zoom, right? So if you wanted to run 2 events at exactly the same time, 2 separate events with Zoom going, well, now you'll start to see that there is a limit on how many active Zoom meetings you can have going. And so you can have 5 active Zoom meetings simultaneously working in the pro account that you've got.
Thank you.
And that's across all of your organizations. And then you can pay for more rooms, and so we often do that. There's a way to add on having more active simultaneous rooms. And sometimes we want to do that. When I was talking about sponsors, having sponsors booths, you might have 10 sponsors. And so you're going to need 10 active Zoom meetings at that time. And so you would just pay for that, or you would charge your sponsors appropriately, and they would be paying that for you. But that's how that works. So have as many dashboards as you like, and use them for as long as you've got an Obvio subscription. You can just keep using those. And so, as an example, we use that on some events. We've got some replays or some highlights videos that people can come back to after the event, and they could 6 months later, they could come back to it. If that's what we decide, they hit that same magic link. It's going to take them to the dashboard, and now they can see those videos. And we might just disable or turn off the Zoom buttons, kind of rework the dashboard a little bit to say, this is the encore, or whatever you want to call it, and they can come back to it. So have fun with that. Hey, Christy, go ahead.
Hello. I have just added my Obvio API, API. Is it API or API?
API, yep.
Okay, thanks. I work alone, so it's whatever I say it is. But
Okay, it's API. It's API. No, it's API from now on.
No. I want to say it right out loud in public. So. But I'm kind of new to tags, and I don't want to waste everybody's time if this is like off base or anything. But can you shorten where to find it, maybe in the video sequence of Obvio, on how to apply tags, what to call them, best practices at all?
You're using Entreport, right?
Yeah. So I've got to the point where it's asking me to, name so that I can get the information going back and forth. But I could be here for a year trying to make a decision there. So if there's a best practices at all, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so why don't we just start with it at a super high level, if you don't mind. Inside of Entreport, you have the ability to have tags, and those tags can be applied to contacts inside of Entreport. And it's a lot of the different CRMs have something similar. Keep also uses tags, and then there are other things. Or other platforms that use different words for it. But in the case of Entreport, it's tags. And what we see as what is best practices, or what is required to connect Entreport and Obvio, is for each event, you have a single tag that applies to all of your attendees, to identify them as attendees, right? So I'll use TVE as an example. So we have a tag that is TVE7-attendee. That's, that's how we do it internally. You can name it however you want. The name actually does not matter to us. I would recommend that you have a standard naming convention, kind of as like your best practices. So in our case, like I can go back, and if I do a search for a tag that says TVE1-attendee, I know I'm going to find it, because that's how we've always called this particular tag, right? So that's part number one. Part number two is you're going to want to, and you create that inside of Entreport, and then you apply it to everybody who has registered for your event. And you can do that through automation in Entreport, or after the fact to everybody who's purchased a ticket if you want. But I would recommend you do it kind of in real time through automation. From there, you're going to want to create at least 2 other tags. One tag that is like TVE7-Obvio created. Another one that is TVE7-tech check, or checked in. Now, of course, you're going to replace TVE7 with your event name, not have it be called TVE7. But then the last thing you're going to need to do is create a custom field inside of Entreport, where we are going to store the login URL for your attendees.
Okay.
And again, you can call that whatever you want. We use the same naming convention for all of our things. So in our case, it was like TVE7-Obvio login URL, right? So call it whatever makes sense to you. And the one thing that I would recommend you not do is have a generic thing like attendee or Obvio login URL, because if you do more than one event, that's going to become confusing super fast. Okay. Then there's sorry, I'm going from memory here. With Entreport, there's another tag that you need, because Entreport is it's a little unique in terms of how each of these CRMs are a little bit unique, but Entreport is a little unique in terms of how we
Sorry to interrupt, Luca. If it helps, I dropped the form in the chat underneath my question, if that helps, of all the options.
I mean, I think one of the this is actually what I was here. Let me download it. Thank you. Because you're taking a screenshot of something that I can't actually see, which is, well, I can see it, but not without creating an account for that. Okay, so attendee import or delete, that is your attendee tag, right? Like the generic attendee tag that we talked about, TVE7-attendee. I'm going to skip update tag in a minute, and I'll come back to that. Login URL is the custom field that I talked about. Now, you'll see inside of the Entreport integration in Obvio, you can actually create these tags from Obvio. In the case of the attendee tag, you should have that already created. It shouldn't be something that you create via Obvio. You should just be typing in the name of it and searching for it and then clicking on the tag that shows up. That is your attendee tag. If you don't know where to create a login field or a custom field for Entreport, just use the create new field and that'll create it in Entreport for you. And then your action tags are attendee created and attendee checked in, which are those two additional tags that I suggested you create. Again, those ones you can create here from Obvio very easily if you want to. There is another option, which is attendee signed waiver. So if you want to know when an attendee signs a waiver, you can do that. I would say to you that created and signed waiver are optional. Attendee checked in is a pretty important one so that you know inside of Entreport all of your people who have checked in. Now, let's go back up to the update attendee tag. This is a tag that you apply when you want to update the details of a contact from Entreport in Obvio. Let me give you some examples of why you may want to do that. Let's say during your event, somebody says to you, my name's not Blue, it's Red. And you're like, okay, no problem. So you go and log into Entreport, you change my first name in Entreport, and then you apply the update tag, which will then trigger Obvio to rename my contact record into Obvio, my attendee record, from Blue Melnick to Red Melnick. Another reason you may want to do that is you have an option to upgrade to VIP. And during the event, somebody upgrades to VIP. And you apply a VIP tag in Entreport. You want that tag to get updated in Obvio, so you would also apply the update attendee tag, which will send over that new tag information to Obvio, right? So the update attendee tag is really for like automations and to keep the type of data that's in Entreport in sync with Obvio.
Right.
Okay. And then once you do that and you click save, you're going to have a button at the top that's currently grayed out in that screenshot that says import attendees. What that button will do is it will import anybody who is currently an attendee and has the attendee tag. And then going forward, anybody who registers for your event and gets the attendee tag will get automatically imported. So that's kind of Entreport. Okay, Entreport in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Thank you. I have to play around with it, but that's
totally
a perfect starting place. So thank you very much.
Awesome. And I would say mark the about 2-hour mark of the YouTube video and go back and review it if you need to.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. 2 hours, you can go back over and listen to what Blue was saying in that recording. So.
Yeah, because it didn't sit in one sitting. Let's be honest. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. But once you get it, like once you understand how the connections works, it's super easy to set up for the next event and then the next event, right? It really doesn't take a lot of time. You're just like, oh, I need my attendee tag and my checked in tag and my login URL, and I'm good to go. You got this,
Awesome.
Christy. Thank you.
Good work.
Mary, no, Entreport is a third-party solution. It's not included, although I love that idea. But no, it's not included. Entreport is it's similar to Keep or HubSpot or one of the CRMs that you may use for your business to manage your business.
But it's smaller.
Yeah, Entreport's a great product. We actually we have a couple clients that are not smaller, Christy, believe it or not, who are, have like 6- and 7-figure person lists who are using Entreport.
I mean the team at Entreport. It's been the same people there for the last 12 years, so we all kind of know each other by name, which is just so nice. That's what I meant by smaller.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's but it's a great platform.
Awesome. Sorry, tell me more about that big. Who's big over there? Who's using it? Is it Ryan?
I will just say that I know we have a couple of clients who are using. I won't say who it is. I'm sorry, but we have a couple of clients who are using the platform that have like large scale lists. Like it's not just for startups. It's people of all different shapes and sizes use that platform. It's really solid.
People of different shapes and sizes. Okay.
With lists of different sizes is really what I meant. Come on now, Grant. Let's not get inappropriate.
Just having a little fun. I know.
Clean show.
You're in another country.
Your line. Your line.
It's Valentine's Day, and let's just keep it clean. Irina might have the last question here. She said, Blue said that you stream from Zoom to restream to Facebook and YouTube. Is it from Obvio? Zoom? Actually, Irina, I think you're answering your own question. Do you connect Obvio to restream via RTMP and then restream to Facebook?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Zoom has teased that they were building in being able to stream out to multiple services at the same time. I think they built it in an app, and it's all a bit weird. Totally, the best way to do it is to restream. And I mean, I would question often about streaming out to lots of different locations at once. And there are valid reasons for doing it, but there is also something to be said about focusing in on particular platforms and focusing your attention on those. But if you want to stream directly from Zoom to multiple platforms at the same time, then you can use a service like Restream, and you'll set up RTMP from Zoom to Restream, and then in Restream is where you'll connect as many places as you want to do, and that's where it funnels out from there. You don't do anything else in Zoom at that point.
Grant, I use Restream for just from Restream Studio to platforms.
Right.
Why would I need to use Obvio or Zoom in Obvio and connect to Restream? What would be the purpose? I'm trying to figure out, because Restream is not a good quality. When I do it on several platforms, the quality is not that good. I even tried with the highest level there, high def, but it's not. So is there could be better quality if I do that?
Maybe. Yeah, I haven't used Restream very much. But yeah, I mean, there is no advantage unless you were trying to include all your audience, like if you were doing a lot of in Zoom and you had a whole bunch of people as attendees and they were asking questions and you're doing that whole thing and you wanted to rebroadcast or broadcast that on multiple platforms, then that's why you'd be connecting Zoom to Restream. If you're doing more of a single person show event, then you can just do that in Restream and do it that way. But you could also do it using something like OBS and stream to Restream and then go out from there. That maybe the quality is not as good going directly from Restream, but doing it yourself and streaming to Restream might work better. But yeah, you could play around with those options.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. we generally allocate 2 hours, and so we've done pretty well. The people that have hung on right to the end is very impressive. Thank you for hanging around. And if you enjoyed it so much, you could go now to YouTube and watch it all again, just back to back, just binge it again, and enjoy it all again. But otherwise, you can catch us again at the same time, 5 p.m. Eastern next week. And I'll just run through those support options again. Remember, there's a live chat, bottom left-hand corner when you're logged into admin. You can talk to people. Generally, Eastern business hours is when you'll catch someone. If there's no one there at the time, you can still post a question in there that'll go to a ticket system, and then we'll pick that up as an email and go back. You can email directly that ticket system, help@obv.io is how you get that support. And then of course you catch us again next week on this call. Awesome. Thank you everyone. For those that are new, welcome aboard. We're really excited to have more Obvio users and looking forward to hearing how you're using it, and hopefully answering some questions and inspiring you in your next events. So awesome. Thanks.
Thanks everybody. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Happy Valentine's Day.